Have you ever watched a Saw movie and thought, I wonder how I would do if I was ever in a Jigsaw trap? You probably have. I think I can safely say the majority of us have had this cross our minds at least a few times when watching these movies. I already know how I would do. I would fucking die. You want me to cut a key out of my eye to unlock a mask that will crush my face? Oh, what's that? I have 60 seconds? Yeah, fuck. For those of you that don't know, the main premise of the Saw movies are people who don't value their life or have done some shady shit get put in these traps called tests, and they have to overcome something incredibly painful to have a new profound appreciation for living. And with 10 movies spanning over the course of the last 20 years, it's a lot of traps. So for today's video, I'm going to be ranking every trap from Saw 1 to Saw 10, and as a bonus completely free to you, I'll be providing my top tier commentary on how I would personally fare in each one. Hopefully everyone at home can agree with how we'd really do in this shit, except people that say they fall asleep when they get tatted, bro. Not you. You don't get to play. The rankings are GG easy for traps that I think have a high probability of escaping or are kind of lame. That's going to leave a scar, with traps that will leave you with a rather life-altering disability. This is bullshit for traps that are, well, fucking unfair. Amanda. And I'm dead, which is pretty self-explanatory. Disclaimer! This tier list template is something I made on my own, so I will only be ranking the main plot traps, none of the obscure traps, B-story tests, or any of the M. Night Shyamalan twists. So pretty much nothing from Saw 4. And I will try my absolute best to show as much as I can without getting blasted by YouTube, but obviously there are scenes that I can't show entirely. Alright, we have a lot to get through.
So let's begin.
First up is the original Saw trap. I guess we'll call this the bathroom trap. Two guys named Adam and Dr. Gordon are chained to two pipes across the room from each other. They both find shitty hacksaws, and Dr. Gordon has to find a way to kill Adam before 6 p.m. or his family's gonna get clapped. So the trap is they're got the salt through their ankle in order to get free. I'm gonna put the bathroom trap in. That's gonna leave a scar. You got your family on the line, do nothing about it, and you'll just rot in a poop dungeon? Yeah, I think if you could endure the pain and just go off of pure adrenaline, this could be achievable. All right, the flammable jelly trap. This one actually just pisses me off. This guy was injected with some type of poison, and the antidote is locked in a safe in the middle of the room, and he has to guess a combination with an entire room covered in numbers, with thousands of possibilities. Using a candle as his only source of light while covered toes to titties in fire jelly. And as an extra fuck you, the floor is just covered in glass. They could have just gave the dude the trap of just trying to guess the combination before the candle runs out, and he still would have been cooked. This trap is bullshit, so that's where it goes. Moving on, which we're introduced to Amanda Young, which we'll be seeing throughout some of the other Saw movies, and she is wearing the infamous reverse bear trap. Amanda has 60 seconds to remove this rig off of her head, or the trap will pretty much rip her face open from the mouth. The key to this trap is in the stomach of some random dude on the floor, and she's given a scalpel to cut it out, then free herself. I think this is a huge missed opportunity by the writers to make this random person someone she knew, like a friend or a family member. Being that she has no real skin in the game in that department, she obviously escapes. Now I'm probably gonna get shit for this, but it may just be the nostalgia or simply the appreciation of the original film, but I feel most people give this trap way too much credit. And for that, it's going in GG easy. Big disclaimer here, the next trap I'm gonna be ranking discusses self-harm. If this is something that's sensitive to you, please skip ahead with the timestamp below. The next trap is the wire maze. Just like most things from the early 2000s, aged like milk, this guy is put in a maze riddled with barbed wire. He's here because he apparently self-harms and takes his life for granted, so he has 2 hours to traverse the maze or the room seals forever. Now this trap is tricky because we don't fully see the layout due to it being a flashback, but pretty much this guy goes into complete fuck-all meltdown and just charges through the wire and bleeds out. I think given the incredibly generous 2-hour window, you could probably find a way through this, and that's even accounting for if you took a 20-minute break for a panic attack before starting. I know I'm probably gonna slice up my B cups, but I think this is still doable. And for that reason, it's gonna go in, that's gonna leave a scar. I only want to talk about this last trap as an example of the obscure non-main traps, so going forward you'll understand why I'm not including them. Our detectives find this guy strapped to a chair with 2 drills that will pierce the skull after X amount of time. It seems like they stumbled upon Jigsaw before this was finished. We don't know much about the person in the chair, so yeah, not really gonna rank this kind of stuff. And that is Saw 1. So far we've only gotten really fucked by 1 trap, so that's pretty good. Woo! Moving on to Saw 2. With these kind of movies like Saw, Final Destination, even like Terrifier, I feel that after each installment, the bar just has to get higher and higher for these types of things. Because boy, let me tell you, this first trap is the one I mentioned earlier, and this. My man has 60 seconds to remove a death mask device, and the key is surgically placed behind his eye. I don't understand how he went from a 2-hour window in the maze to cutting your eye out in 60 seconds. It would take me 60 seconds alone to try to get the key in the hole. Have you ever tried to plug anything into a USB port in the back of your computer without looking? Yeah, fucking right. I'm dead. Moving on. Now in Saw 2, the games are a bit different as there's multiple people unwillingly participating. Pretty much they're locked in a house, I guess, and they have 2 hours to find the antidotes before the nerve agent kills them. But technically, I guess our next trap is the Magnum peephole trap. Jigsaw literally says, yo, don't use the key on this door, which based on my knowledge seems to be the only way to open the door though. Where this dumbass messes up is deciding to put his face anywhere near the door when it's getting unlocked. If this is the only key that opens this door to reveal the rest of the tests and the gun has to fire around to open, I think take your time and literally move as far as humanly possible away from the door when unlocking. This should be kind of easy. I would survive this. The furnace trap. As mentioned earlier, more dumbass ensues. There are 2 antidotes in the back of this furnace, and to retrieve them, you have to pull on a lever which is tied to the furnace door. After seeing a guy just get his head blasted off, you'd imagine you would scope everything out this time around, or at the very least, make sure that the door doesn't close. However, the guy goes in, yanks the chain, door closes, and now the fire turns on. But Jigsaw even shows you a valve that I would assume turns off the flames. Like, bro, it's right there. Burn yourself a little bit, turn it off, or just die in there like a pussy. I don't understand. There's just so many things that people could have done to prevent this. It's mind-numbing. This trap is going in. That's going to leave a scar. If closing the door is the only way to get the antidote, I feel like I could roast some pubes in order to get the valve off. That's just me, though. The needle pit. Yeah, this one's really gross. This trap is literally a needle in a haystack, and this ginormous pit of needles is one with the antidote and a key which unlocks the room, in which they have 3 minutes to find. This trap was supposed to be Xavier's, but he just yeets Amanda in because, well, he's a piece of shit. She starts frantically swiping through the needles, which absolutely makes my skin crawl. It eventually does find it, but it just wasn't in enough time. Now, going into this thing, you gotta expect that the antidote to be at the very, very bottom somewhere. So you're gonna have to dig, but like no one could throw her a jacket, a pair of shoes, anything to protect her. Also, that key is attached to an antidote. Unless I'm a dumbass, I saw no one use it. But yeah, this trap is absolutely disgusting. I couldn't do it. I'm putting this in. I'm dead. All right, the last official trap of Saw 2 for me is going to be the razor box. There's just so many things dumb about this one. I'm not sure if she's just mentally cooked because of the poison, but she just dives right into the box of razor cuffs without 1, listening to the tape, or 2, scoping it out first. I'm also pretty sure she could have used one hand to grab a needle and the other one to keep the cuff open. You're obviously going to get cut, but not nearly as bad as she does. This trap is dumb. It's going in GG easy. So that pretty much wraps up Saw 2. I know that the entire nerve agent house is a trap in its own, but ultimately it's there to capture Detective Matthews. I think the cleverness of this trap as a whole is pretty cool, and this is why Saw 2 is probably my favorite in the franchise, but we gotta keep chugging. Saw 3 opens up with yet another super fucked up one. Again, raising the bar. This guy has chains lodged throughout his entire body, with one of them being in his jaw. His jaw, brother! And has roughly 2 minutes to remove them all, and I'm guessing just get to cover before this nail bomb goes off. 2 of these chains are attached to what appears to be his Achilles tendon, so you're just automatically fucked there. This trap is just bullshit, which makes sense because Amanda is the one creating these when Jigsaw is getting medical treatment. So there you go. Me personally, I would die. There's no way I'm doing this. Next up is the ribcage acid key trap. I'll save us some time here. She has to reach into a tub of acid to retrieve a key that is slowly dissolving. She gets the key out relatively quickly and unlocks herself, but she has like the device break to her ribcage and has to pull them out herself. It's just a scam. Amanda sucks. This is going into the bullshit category. In Saw 3, they decided to go with a plot A, plot B type of movie. One path follows a neurosurgeon captured by Amanda to try to cure John Kramer's brain cancer, and if his heart stops, then a shotgun necklace blows her head off. Speaking of which, I'm just gonna put that in the bullshit category as well. In the second plot follows a father named Jeff who lost his son due to a drunk driver, where parties involved are rigged into traps, and Jeff has to essentially decide how it goes. Kind of a weird thing to like try to rank, but I'll give it my best go. The first Jeff test has a woman who witnessed the accident but refuses to testify strung up in a freezer where she periodically gets squirted with water. She's butt-ass naked, titties out. I cannot show this on YouTube. Jeff has to essentially reach for a valve that cuts off the water, but his face has to touch frozen pipes. Other than that, the trap seems pretty simple. Lose some skin in your face to save a person's life? I know that he's grieving, but she's technically innocent. This is going in, that's gonna leave a scar. Spoiler, she dies. The next Jeff test has the judge from his son's trial locked to the bottom of this like poop chute where gross ass pigs get grinded up and spit into this container. If enough pig guts goes into the chute, the judge will suffocate, and all Jeff has to do is burn his son's toys and photos. I can totally understand the hesitation and being overwhelmed with the emotions of this, but other than that, this trap is pretty damn easy. With that said, pig poop chute goes into GG easy. This last trap is gnarly. The rack. Jeff's final test is to free the man who was responsible for the drunk driving accident that killed his son. This guy's limbs are placed in a medieval-inspired rack that continuously twists, and the key to stopping this device is on the trigger of a shotgun. Bad stuff. However, based on what happens in the movie, you have the option to pull the key immediately, which releases a shell, or take your time and untie the string, which leads to this guy suffering more. Either way, the shotgun seems to have a hairline trigger, because it still goes off. If you're going through the test as the trap was intended, you're going to lose a hand, maybe even your life. And what happens if the key gets caught in the blast? I consider making a category just for the rack, because the entire thing is so insane, but I think I have to put it in this is bullshit. I know I said this earlier, but I am sweating. I have 1,000 lights on in this room. For every like on this video makes my AC blow colder. Please, Jesus. Moving on to Saw 4, and this is the reason as to why I didn't want to provide a full synopsis of these movies, because they kind of start going downhill from here, to be honest. Saw 4 opens up with 2 guys chained to a device that will crush them inside a very cool looking mausoleum. One of them has their eyes sewn shut, and the other has his mouth sewn shut. The premise here is they aren't able to communicate. and each person has a key on the back of their collars. This trap is cool on paper, but in reality, there is no reason as to why both guys shouldn't be able to escape here. Obviously, the guy with his mouth sewn shut has the advantage, but there are like sharp tools everywhere around the area. He could have used one to like cut his stitches, and at the end, he forces his mouth open anyway. Like, bro, you could have done that from the start, explain what was going on, and probably save both you guys. This trap is going in GG easy. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I wouldn't be taking much time on Saw 4 for a couple of reasons. The main character we follow in this movie is Officer Rigg, and to be completely honest, he is more of an observer in the rest of the movie's traps. And Saw 4 touches on multiple situations that could be triggering for some viewers that I think ultimately it's best just to skip. Hell movie anyway. Saw 5, yeah. We get another team trap situation, and it will not be the last, I promise you that. First trap of this movie is the swinging pendulum. This one is pretty brutal. Seth has 30 seconds before the pendulum touches his body, and 60 seconds for pretty much to cut him in half. All he has to do is push down on 2 levers that crush his hands to dust. I think this trap is go big or go home. Crushing your hands, as incredibly painful as that is, I don't think you can hesitate to get this done. I am putting the pendulum in. That's gonna leave a scar. Can't crank your hog, but being alive is pog.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
That needs to be on the shirt. Just like our previous team test from Saw 2, the dumbassery follows in this one. For the first team trap, they're all attached with a wire and a collar that after 60 seconds will pull them into lockers with sharp blades in them. The wire only has so much slack, so whenever a person moves forward, the wire pulls the other 4 in. Pretty cool concept, I think. But since the trap has just started, no one is getting cut yet, so what's stopping the first person from going forward, getting their key, unlocking themselves, and then getting everyone else's? This obviously isn't how it's played out since everyone is fucking stupid, but this trap is GG easy. Up next for our beloved team is the bomb chamber trap. I don't know what the actual names of these are, by the way. I'm just kind of making up as we go. Hanging above our contestants are like jars holding these keys to unlock the tunnels, but only 3 of the keys work, leaving one of the tunnels locked. And in 60 seconds, nail bombs will go off in the corners of the room. The key part is super simple. Just break the glass, try every key as fast as possible. And these tunnels are big. Like, you could 100% fit more than one person in them. Look how deep they go. So at an absolute bare minimum, I feel like you would only need 2 keys to pull this off. This trap is dumb. GG easy. At this part of the movie, you're probably starting to realize that the traps are significantly easier the more people that are alive. The next trap requires our group to use their bodies to bridge the gap for enough electricity to open the door. But since they're stupid, there's only 3 left, meaning they're all going to have to take way more of a shock in order to pull this off. So instead of taking responsibility for their lack of teammates, they decide to pretty much kill one off and use her to connect all 5 cables. I'm not really sure where to rank this one because I feel like I'm being influenced by the actions of the characters in this movie. But if it were me, I would have to try to get it done with at least 3 of us. So I'm going to put Shock Tub, and that's going to leave a scar. And well, what do you know? The last trap would have been so much easier if everyone was still alive. Last one's pretty crazy, I'll admit. This trap has 5 buzzsaws inside a case, and they have to fill a single jar with 10 pints of blood, and they have 15 minutes to do it, or they're trapped in this room for eternity. So this is cooked. You got 2 of you left, and you have to give 5 pints of blood each. I'm not a doctor. It will probably kill you anyway due to bleed out, even if you pulled it off. This scene's gnarly. I can't show it. With the full squad alive, I think this is feasible. But I'm dead. I pass. Well, we have officially made it to the halfway mark, and I gotta do the typical YouTuber thing. I know it's cringe, I'm sorry, but I must ask that you like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying the video. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. All right, Saw 6 time. This movie opens up with 2 loan officers who were captured because they approved people for loans they knew they couldn't pay back. Imagine getting put in a jigsaw trap because you help a barista finance a Toyota Corolla with hubcap. So this trap is what I like to call the meat scale. Each person has a device on their head that slowly drills into their temple, and they have 60 seconds to essentially cut off parts of their flesh in order to outweigh the other person using the scale in front of them. It's a pretty violent scene, I'll admit, but I think the lady made the best decision cutting her arm off while the chubby guy was slicing off his fat like he works at a deli. I think that the meat scale will go in. That's gonna leave a scar. So the main plot of this movie follows another character that has somehow fucked John Kramer over even though he's been dead for 3 movies. His name is William Easton, and he's the insurance executive that denied John's requests for out-of-network cancer treatment. This movie also has a very similar theme where the person undergoing the test is responsible for other people's lives with minimal pain, which I think is kind of lame. So our first test for William has him hooked up to a machine that crushes his sides each time he breathes. But the kicker is it's another 1v1, baby. His opponent, a Navy SEAL with the capability of holding their breath for 4 minutes. I'm just kidding. They chose a 52-year-old out-of-shape guy who's been smoking since he was 7. Whoever can outlast the other wins. I'm pretty sure you can figure out who does. This trap is bullshit. Oh, by the way, the victims that are all tied up in these traps work with William at the insurance company in some way. So the next test has our boy William in yet another pickle. He holds the fate of 2 fellow employees in his hands, literally. On one side, you have an older woman with diabetes and a huge family. And on the other side, you have a young man with no family history. This is yet again another 1v1. I may get flamed for this, but if you take the emotion out of the situation and just go based off of the facts, the older woman has already lived 60 years. Why does a 20-year-old get shafted because he has no remote family alive anymore? Bullshit trap. Next trap up is the steam maze. William has to help a lawyer from his firm navigate through a crawl maze that disperses hot steam. I don't know why I said it like that. He has to pull a valve which shuts off her steam, but in turn blows back on him. This trap is a kicker. Of course, it's timed, and the lawyer has a device rigged to impale her throat in 90 seconds if she doesn't pass the maze. Oh, but the key to her trap is stitched inside William's waist? This is a John Kramer trap, by the way. I will never understand his logic with timing these events. Obviously, this is not enough time. William does not let her get the key out, so once again, someone dies. I'm putting Steam Maze in bullshit. 3 in a row. What an absolute shocker. The last technical test for William is called the shotgun carousel. 6 of his employees ride the carousel, but only 2 can get off, meaning William gets to decide, once again, who lives or dies. This trap has a shotgun that lowers each time the carousel stops, and William has to put his hand in a device that, like, pierces his bone or, like, his skin if he doesn't want the shotgun to fire. I mean, don't get it twisted. 4 of them are getting shot regardless. I'm even surprised William saved any of them, to be honest. Following the trend, this trap is pretty unfair. Each person has their own reasons for why they should live. I don't know how anyone is supposed to make that decision. So for the 4th time in a row, this trap is going into bullshit. Don't worry, William dies at the end in the most Looney Tunes way possible. I don't think it's considered a trap, so we're just gonna move on. It's time for Saw 7, the final chapter. We all know this is not true. Saw 7 was actually filmed to be viewed in 3D because that was a popular thing to do in 2010. So that means for the first time, the traps are actually pretty funny. Up first, we have the love triangle. This trap occurs in a storefront in broad fucking daylight, which is pretty awesome, and amasses a crowd of people. 2 guys are chained to a table that has a singular saw blade in which they can like push towards the other one in order to cut them. But we also have a girl that is hoisted above. One, I absolutely love how Billy rides out in this scene for some reason. And the way that this lady tries to break the glass is hilarious. Oh, I tried. The girl hoisted above is pretty much playing both guys, getting them to do bad shit for her, getting in trouble with the law, etc. And they have the decision to make. Either save her and one of them dies, or she dies and they both live. Me personally, I feel like this is an easy decision, especially finding out that she's a massive piece of shit. This trap is going in GG easy. Now, Saw 7 introduced us to a pretty cool story this time around, with Jigsaw's cases being covered worldwide. A guy by the name of Bobby decides to cash in the virality, pretends to be one of the survivors of the games to achieve fame and fortune, baby. But we'll get to him in a minute. We have a double feature this time. The next intro trap features the late Chester from Linkin Park. Rest in peace, brother. In this movie, he plays a white supremacist who was super glued to an El Camino seat while 3 of his shitty friends are rigged to the car. And this scene is fucking hilarious. The accelerator on the car is held down, and if he doesn't unglue himself from the seat and pull the lever within 30 seconds, all of them die. As awesome as this scene is, I still think the trap is doable, so I'm going to put Gorilla Glue El Camino Fantastico, and that's going to leave a scar. But back to Bobby, you know, the guy who poses as survivor for money, actually gets nabbed and put into a trial. Not gonna lie, pretty cool concept. His first trap is to escape the cage that he was captured in that is hanging over some spikes. He apparently does it no problem by using physics, but I know for sure my fat ass would have just fallen on those. However, for an opener Jigsaw saw trap, this seems kind of GG easy. Right? Next trap has Bobby's publicist strapped in this chair that has rods moving closer to her neck if the volume in the room goes over a certain decibel. The kicker is the key to her trap is attached to a hook and string that is wedged down in her stomach and throat, and Bobby has to pull it out while keeping the noise in the room quiet. Of course, this trap comes with a standard issue 60-second timer, and it's pretty tough. I ain't gonna lie. If I look at it from the perspective of being the one in the chair, then yeah, I have to put throat fishing and I'm dead. The next test for Bobby has his lawyer on a lifting table that will pierce her face within 60 seconds. Of course, all Bobby has to do is go into this like makeshift squat rack and lift it up to the highest it'll go for at least 30 seconds to bypass the machine. But by doing so, pushes rods into his sides. I know this will probably hurt really bad, but I think once the rods are in, that's probably the worst it gets, right? I think there are way worse traps to be in. This one seems pretty doable, so I'm gonna put shoulda went to the gym, and that's gonna leave a scar. Moving on, our friend Bobby is now in the thick of it, and it's time for his next test, baby. He finds himself on a second floor room with the entire floor missing, with only flimsy planks and beams that still remain. His best friend Kale is on the other side. Kale? Really? His buddy Kale is blindfolded, and Bobby has to direct him to the middle of the room in order so they can like meet, and he can like give him a key to unlock his noose. For the most part, Bobby does a good job at navigating, but getting someone to catch a little key blindfolded was the challenge. Literally, close your eyes and have someone try to throw you like an M&M. There's no way. In comparison to all the other traps in the franchise, I feel like this one is just lazy. And for reasons specified before, I'm going to put this trap in a category of its own. If your name is Kale, you've already been through enough, buddy. I'm so sorry. Last and final trap / test for Bobby is he has to hoist himself by his pec muscles, aka his titties, and connect a power cable that will shut off a machine that his wife is trapped in. It's pretty much like an Optimus Prime furnace, and yep, he can't do it. I know probably for a fact I couldn't do this one due to girth reasons, but I think it could be achievable, especially if you cut out all the stalling and just locked in. And for that, the finale trap, Titty Twister, is going to go in. That's going to leave a scar. And that wraps up Saw 7. Okay, almost done. Saw 8 is technically called Jigsaw, and if I remember correctly, it takes place while John Kramer was still alive. aka we're running out of ideas. However, 7 years have passed since the last film, and the uptick in video quality definitely shows, so that's a plus. And since I know you love these so much, baby, we're bringing back team games. In our first trap, 5 shitty people are chained to a machine that pulls them towards spinning saw blades, and they have really cool bucket helmets on. Essentially, the trap is a blood sacrifice, like any amount. Cut your finger a teeny bit and you're Gucci, you advance. One of the guys during the trap, like, never wakes up, so Jigsaw gives him a pass. It lets him become his new, like, Sith apprentice. I don't know, these movies are ridiculous. Anyways, this room is too cool for a trap, so lame. GG easy. The next trap kind of continues from the previous since they're still chained up, and in order for them to not hang, a woman in the group has to be injected with one of 3 needles. Why? Because she was poisoned off screen. Obviously, you idiot. Each syringe has a numerical value on them, and all she has to do is pick the one which has any resemblance from anything involving her crimes. And like, she immediately nails it. It's $3.53. That was the amount that she stole from a lady when she was a purse thief. But then she like stalls for some reason. The chains start to hang everybody, and she won't let herself get injected, so the dude just stabs her with all 3. Such a stupid scene, and again, another boring trap going into GG easy. With another teammate dead for no reason, we move on to the next team game. This one is a little confusing, and I've watched this scene numerous times. We know Jigsaw is very blunt when it comes to, hey, don't use this door. But our guy Ryan attempts to anyway and falls into, I guess a booby trap, and his leg becomes ensnared in wire. This is where I get confused. The 2 others are led into a silo where, again, the door closes behind them. Why no one props open a door, I don't understand. And they find a remote that plays a video, but the video specifies Ryan by name has to pull the lever to free them from the silo. I can only assume this is a live stream of Jigsaw narrating, because if no one fell into the booby trap, how does the trap work going forward? Does Jigsaw just have scripts for different outcomes? All right, I know I'm being picky. So the silo fills with grain and falling sharp objects while Ryan decides if he can cut off his own leg. That's pretty much it. He eventually does, but man, this whole trap is kind of bullshit, solely due to perfect events needing to occur for this to happen. But 2 lives for a leg, and then you could probably still survive, you know what I mean? 3 lives? That's gonna leave a scar. This next trap is designed for Mitch exclusively because he sold Jigsaw's nephew a motorcycle with faulty brakes. Fuck Mitch. He gets yoinked by some wire and hoisted above this blade tornado thing. As it lowers him inside, the blades get tighter and tighter, and he has to pull a motorcycle brake at the very bottom to what I'm assuming stops it. But does it come back on after he releases it? Does he get pulled back up after 1 pull and some cuts? I don't even know where to rank this trap. I like to think it's just 1 grab, fuck your arm up. If that's the case, then this is gonna go and that's gonna leave a scar, I guess. After this trap, Anna pries the door open to escape, but is apprehended by Jigsaw, then wakes up to find her and Ryan shackled inside Kramer's headquarters. John then says, "You're about to play a game," and Ryan says, "I already played your game, look at my leg." In which John replies with this.
That wasn't your test, Ryan. And that wouldn't have been necessary if you'd simply played by the rules.
I don't get it. What was that trap supposed to be, man? Anyways, Anna and Ryan are presented with a shotgun, and John says the game is simple. Here's the key to your freedom. And in typical Jigsaw fashion, he meant literally. Inside the shotgun shell was a key to both of their shackles. Anna, being a terrible human piece of shit for reasons I will not discuss in this video, thinks her key to freedom is killing Ryan and ends up blasting herself because the shotgun fires inwards. I mean, you're both chained in there for what is probably an eternity anyway. There's no timer, nothing really pressuring you to be hasty other than like Ryan's bleeding out, I guess. I feel like the shot could have been easily defused, but alas, GG easy. I am so happy for this. We've officially made it to the home stretch, but first we have to get through one more speed bump. Spiral from the Book of Saw. God, this movie was so ass. Spiral had a budget of $20 million and Samuel Jackson, and they still somehow squeezed out a turd. I'll be deadass honest, I watched this movie once, so please forgive me if I get any of the plot incorrect. We open up to our first trap where an off-duty detective chases a thief into a sewer where he's bagged by someone wearing a pig mask. Heavy spoilers, this new Jigsaw-esque person is not John Kramer because, believe it or not, he actually is dead now. But goddamn, I wish he wasn't, because what the fuck even is this voice?
Hello, Detective Banks. I want to play a game.
Hello, Detective Banks. I want to play a game. You couldn't have thought of anything cooler? How does anyone sit there and listen to that in the studio and go, fuck yeah, that's what we need to do? I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to speed on this. First trap, detective no one cares about, has his tongue stuck in a clamp in an active subway tunnel. Remove your tongue or get whacked by the oncoming train. Jump off the stool and get it done. That's gonna leave a scar. Next trap, detective no one cares about too, is tied to a finger pulley machine and requires him to bite down on a switch that pulls his fingers off, or the water will rise in 90 seconds, touching the copper wire and frying him anyway. This is bullshit. This is too painful. I don't think any normal person can withstand this type of agony in that a lot of time. Next trap, crooked cop lady has to sever her own spinal cord with a blade attached to the table to stop hot wax from suffocating her to death. I'm dead. Next trap, Chris Rock's former partner who killed an innocent man is chained up in front of a glass crushing machine that rapid fires bottle pieces at him. Guy's a piece of shit. GG easy. Final trap, Chris Rock finds out his fellow officer is behind all the deaths. Meanwhile, Samuel Jackson is being bled out and Chris is given a gun with 1 bullet. Shoot the Jigsaw fan and Samuel Jackson dies, or shoot the target and they both win. Chris Rock shoots the target, dropping his dad, then gets hoisted back up when a SWAT team arrives, turning Samuel Jackson into a living puppet with a shotgun, so he gets blasted. Bullshit trap. And that is Spiral from the Book of Ass. I am so happy for two reasons. One, we got through Spiral as fast as we did, and two, it's time to rank our last set of traps. Saw 10 came out in 2023 and is the most recent film of the franchise. Quick rundown for those of you that haven't seen the movie yet. John Kramer travels to Mexico to participate in a new cancer study that has supposedly been found to be more successful. Come to find out, the entire operation is a scam. And everyone involved, from the taxi driver that picks him up at the airport to the actual fucking head doctor, is in on it. So Jigsaw says, "It's high noon, bitches," and puts them all in last minute traps. First trap is the taxi driver Diego, and he has like pipe bombs clamped onto his forearms and scalpels for hands. The catch is he can't use the scalpels to cut through the cables, but he needs to essentially cut through the tissue around them to be released. This trap is a 3-minute timer, which I find to be incredibly generous for 2004, 2005 Jigsaw, but what do I know? These timers never fucking make sense anyway. The pipe bomb arm, I think, would probably be pretty tough to get through, but definitely not impossible, as Diego was able to get it done fairly quick, and for that reason, this will go in. That's gonna leave a scar. Our next trap is, in my opinion, the worst one in the entire movie. Valentina has to use like a wire saw to cut off her fucking leg at the thigh and stick a tube inside the wound and extract enough bone marrow to trigger a scale that deactivates the device. I know sawing your foot off in the original is somewhat similar, but the placement of the cut plus the bone marrow extraction in the limited time to not get your cut off, yeah, I'm dead. Keeping the trend going here, the next trap is for Mateo, who originally posed as a surgeon earlier in the film, but this time he has to drill into his own skull, cut out enough of his brain, dissolve enough of it in a beaker that'll then release a key in which frees him from a death mask, and he's given 3 fucking minutes. 3! I'm sorry, man. I'm throwing brain surgeon trap right and I'm dead. There's absolutely no way I could do. There's no way. The next trap is for Gabriella, who John originally grew to liking during his stay at the recovery center, but she's up next. She gets hoisted up by a chain attached to her wrist and one to her ankle, while intense radiation blasts her in the face. The trap is she has to use a hammer to break enough of her limbs in order to squeeze through the shackles. This trap, in my opinion, seems way easier than what her co-workers had to do. She's able to succeed in definitely one of the more tamer tests in the franchise, I would say. That's gonna leave a scar. The main event of the movie happens where John Kramer kind of got duped by Cecilia and her boyfriend, and Jigsaw himself gets put into a trap alongside local boy Carlos, and this kid is a fucking Chad. Absolute best part of the movie. Essentially, both of them are opposite of each other on a seesaw-like platform that begins waterboarding them with blood whenever their switch is active. Carlos, like an absolute stud, even takes on some of the flow to allow John to breathe throughout this trap. It's a moving scene for sure. We don't get a tape preview in this one, but I'm assuming it was designed for only one participant to survive. So I don't know, man. You pretty much have to out-endure the other person, and since the scene is so badass, I'm gonna put it in I'm dead. The last and final trap, I guess you could say, of this video is kind of a typical Jigsaw gotcha moment where Cecilia and her dude fall into a booby trap set by John because he can foresee the future, I guess. Pretty much they head up to a room that has cash in it, get locked in, and it fills with gas. Long story short, I'm pretty sure Cecilia and her boyfriend were supposed to be the ones going into the blood boarding trap. So this last one is just a fail-safe. So for that, I will not be ranking it, but I wanted to at least mention it anyway. And that's it. That's every main plot trap ranked from Saw 1 all the way to the newest edition, Saw X. Been working on this video for some time, so if you made it this far and you enjoyed what you saw today, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe if you're new. Obviously, with tier lists, our opinions are going to differ. And listen, I have a great place where you can put those opinions down in the comment section. Just let me know. Hope you enjoyed the video. I got some drinking to do. I'll catch you all on the next one.